today's episode, we are going to continue with our progress in the Media Attachment Preview, which is this component down here that we use to display our selected images, videos, and recorded audio files. And as you can see from where we left off in the last episode, like I just demoed, we can actually select photos and videos and would see a preview of those. In today's episode, we are going to handle a couple of functionalities, and the first one being able to remove a specific item from this component. As you can see right now, we can't really remove an item, right? And that's a little bit problematic. We want to be able to remove an item and have that removed from this list of items in this Media Attachment Preview. And that's going to be the core focus of today's video. So let us get right into it. So I'm going to jump into Xcode. And the first thing that I want us to address is to go inside of our Media Attachment Preview. So we have this cancel button right here. We want to be able to have some sort of an action when this cancel button closure fires. We want to use that action to let our chat room view model know to remove a specific item from our media attachments. So what we're going to do is, just like we did with the play button, and if I go back to our simulator, right, if you remember we did this in the last episode, when we click on this play button, right, we allow the chat room view to handle this logic for us. I would like for us to do that right now, and we could just leverage this enum that we already created down here, which we called user action enum, I believe. And so we have a case play, so we can just add another case, and we could just call it, I don't know, remove item. Right, and this remove item case is going to have an associated value, which is the media attachment itself. And if you think about it, this is a pretty clean and elegant way to handle the solution. And all we have to do now is to scroll all the way to our cancel button right here instead of our media attachment preview. And now we could just say action handler, right? And what do we want to do? Well, we want to remove the specific item that you clicked on the cancel button, the specific item, that the cancel button has. And how are we going to have access to this specific item? Well, it's pretty simple. Just like we did with the thumbnail image view, we could use the same logic. We could just pass in an attachment into this cancel button. Remember, the cancel button is just a function. It's just like a compose function. So we're just going to take this attachment, pass it right here into our handler, which is just a closure that's going to fire. Now it's going to yell at us wherever we're using this cancel button. It's going to say, hey, we need this attachment. So pretty simply, we're just going to pass this attachment from here, which we're already passing into this thumbnail function, down into the cancel button function. And I believe we're also using the cancel button in a couple of other places. So let's scroll all the way down here. Yep, I am right. We're using it in the audio attachment preview. So I'm going to let Xcode fix that for us. And we are just going to pass this attachment in here as well. Okay, so that is the first set of the situation. The other thing we need to account for really quickly is to go into our chat room view model. Now this method right here called handle media attachment preview inside of our chat room view model, this method now we need to fix it. So we're going to click fix because we have a new case because it has two cases now. Again, this user action has play case and it has a remove case. So now let us fix this inside of our chat room view model. We know the remover comes with an attachment. So I'm going to say attachment. And what do we want to really do with this removal, right? All we want to do is, if we go back to the completed version of the project, or like the version that we have right here on the simulator, when we click on this cancel button, we want to remove this item from our media attachments array. And we also want to deselect it from our array of photo picker items. So we have two arrays that we're managing here. This media attachment is what allows us to be able to show the actual elements that we've selected or recorded, while the photo picker item is the actual data model that the photo picker gives us back when we select an item from inside of our photo picker. So we need to be able to deselect all those items for us to actually remove an item from this array. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to come down here and let us create another method, and this can be a private method, and this method is going to be responsible for handling removal for us. So I'm going to say remove. And let's see, what do I want to remove? I want to remove an item, which is the media attachment item, right? So I'm going to say media attachment. And the media attachment that I want to remove, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use index. So we can loop through the index. We can loop through this attachment, this array of media attachments. So we have this array of media attachments, if you remember. We can loop through it and we can say if this item that we want to remove is equals to any of the item in this media attachments, then remove that specific item, right? And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to say, let's see, we're going to say media attachments. Really all we want to do is something like remove at a specific index. How do we get that index? We're going to use the first index method. So Swift gives us a first index method. We're going to do that by saying let's see, attachment index. I'm going to call it attachment index. And I'm just going to say media attachments. But first, as you can see, first index is going to return the first index in which an element in the collection satisfy the given predicate. The long story short is it's going to loop through this media attachments array, our list. It's going to see if a specific element in that array is equal to this specific item that we want to remove. And if that's the truth, if that's true, it's going to give us that index. And then we're going to use that index to remove that item. So here's how we're going to satisfy the predicates. We're going to say $0.ID is equals to item.id. Okay, that looks pretty good. And because it's optional, that's why I'm using the godlet. So if the index is not found, we're just going to return out of the scope. But in any given situation, the index should be available. So we're going to add this attachment index right here. So right now we're removing the specific item from this media attachments array that's right up here. Again, I'm going to scroll the way back down here. And now we need to do the same thing for our photo picker item, because remember this photo picker item, this array of photo picker item, let me scroll all the way up here. this array of photo picker item is actually what, SwiftUI is going to give us back whenever we select any element inside of this photo picker. So I would like for us to be able to do a situation where whenever we delete an item from here, I also want to deselect it from here as well. That's the expected behavior, especially when it's a photo or a video. And the way we're going to do that pretty quickly is to also use an index removal in the photo picker item. So I want us to do something like photo picker items, remove at index. So we want to remove it at a specific index. And how are we going to get that index? Well, we're going to do the same thing we just did with the attachment index, except this time around I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to call it, instead of attachment index, let's see, I'm going to call it photo index. And instead of media attachment, we're going to be looping over the photo picker items, the array of photo picker items. And the first index that we're looking for is what? Well, really what we want to do here is, so each photo picker items, if I scroll all the way up here, each of these guys actually have something called an item identifier. So this is going to jump into our SwiftUI, our photos picker documentation. As you can see, there's something called an item identifier here. It's an optional string, right? And look at the documentation right there, guys. It says the local identifier of the item. What is it saying? It's saying for each of this individual photo item right here that we select, they actually have an ID internally. And it says it will be nil if the photo picker is created without a photo library. Okay, more on this later. I'm going to explain what this means and how we can solve for that. But let's go back to our chat room view model. And so now if we scroll all the way down here inside of this index, we know it has an item identifier. So we want to look for that item identifier. We're saying if that item identifier is equals to the ID of this specific element that we just clicked the cancel button on, then if that's the case, we want to remove that item from the photo picker. So I'm going to take this photo index, I'm going to pass it here. Right now, this is actually not going to work as we expect or as we want it to, and I'm going to show you why. But first, let us call this remove function inside of our handle media attachment preview function. Now, so I'm going to say remove attachments. Okay, everything should work as usual because if you remember, the undo media attachment preview method is actually being called inside of our chat room screen right here, where we have view model, actually not there, right here, where we have view model, the handle media attachment preview. So what we want to do next now is let's actually check everything out on our SwiftUI preview. So if I open a SwiftUI preview, let's say I select 3 items, right? And let's say I click X, right? You would think it should remove an item, and it does. Let's say I remove another item. Look at that. It's working, right? That's great, right? What if I go back and I open the photo picker again? You see, it did not actually deselect that item from the photo picker. And that's really what we want. We wanted to deselect it from the photo picker as well, right? So if we click done again, look at that. That is not really what we want. Let's say, for example, we select an item and then we deselect an item here and we go back to done. Look at that. It repopulates those items that we already removed. So let's say we removed 3 items. We have 2 items now. Let's say we only did, for example, now we have 4 items selected. Let's say we go back to done. Again, it repopulates the item that we already selected, that we already removed from our array. So the way to fix that is, let's go back to that documentation in the Photos UI. As you can see, it says this item identifier in the Photos UI framework, for each photo item, they have an ID. And that ID is only going to be present if the photo picker is created with a photo library. So right now, if we go back to our chat room screen, our photo picker right here, this modifier that we are attaching to our message list view, is actually not being presented with a photo library. And what that means is this item ID is always going to be nil, right? That's why this chat room view model is actually, this logic is actually not working right now, because it's actually not removing the item from the photo picker items array. And so if we go back to our chat room screen, the way we can fix this pretty quickly is actually to just add a photo library to this photo picker modifier. So there's a photo library parameter, and I'm just going to say photo, what's the syntax again? Yep, photo library. And I'm going to say, I want us to use the shared instance. Okay. Let's wait for it. Everything should work. And again, now with us just passing this photo library parameter here and telling it to use the shared instance of the photo picker library, right? This item identifier is no longer going to be nil. As you can see, it's a gettable property and it's optional. And the only reason it's optional is because if you actually create this photo picker, if you attach this modifier to your view and you don't pass this photo library line right there, it's actually not going to have an ID. So now let us test our code again. Let's say we go right here. We select a bunch of photos, right? We selected these 3 photos. Let's remove one, right? Let's go back. Okay, that still did not work, right? Interesting. Actually, I know why. So the other thing I would like for us to do now is, obviously, if we go to our chat room view model, that was actually a good catch. So inside of our chat room view model, where are we creating our media attachment items? So each of this array, if we go here, each of this item in this array, we're creating them somewhere, right? And we're creating them right here inside of our pass photo picker items method. So this method we created right here. For example, we're creating video attachments here and we're creating photo attachments here. But there is a little bit of a problem, guys. We're using a UUID, which is just a randomly generated string, right? And like I just established, we want to actually use this photo ID, this photo item identifier. So the way to fix this is to go right up here and actually get hold of this photo items photo ID. So I'm going to say let's item identifier right here. I'm going to optionally unwrap it. It's equals to photo item the item identifier. Why am I optionally unwrapping it? Again, if I go to this documentation right here in the Photos UI, as you can see, it's a gettable property and it's optional. And I just explained a while ago why it is optional. Okay, so now we're going to take this item ID and use this as the ID of our media attachment for our video attachment instead of using a UUID. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for our photo ID. We're going to get a hold of an item identifier, but we need to create an item identifier up here. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, let's item identifier is equals to what? Well, it's equals to the photo item that we're currently looping in, the item identifier. So now each of our media attachments ID is actually their photo ID. It's actually their photo picker item identifier. So let's go back to our chat room screen and let us validate this logic that we just wrote. And you see what I mean now. So now if we go here, let's say we select this and then let's say we select this one. So we know we have these two items selected. Let's go back. If we deselect one of them and we go back to our photo picker, right? Look at that. We only have one item selected, which is exactly what we want. What if we deselect this last item, right? And we go back up. Look at that. There is no item actually selected inside of our photo picker. And the same thing is true for videos because we're just using the photo picker item ID as the ID for our media attachment. So if I remove all of these items, for example, and this is buggy right now, we're going to fix that in just a little bit. If I remove all of this, we have two items now. Let's go back and present our photo picker again. Look at that. We only have two items selected. What if we remove an item from here? We go back here. Of course, we only have an item selected. So I think this is such a great idea for us to build something like this because it really shows you how to combine a bunch of different frameworks to get the specific functionalities that you actually want out of your application. The other thing that I want us to bring our attention to pretty quickly is, as you can see, if I jump into our to-dos, one of the other big thing I want us to do for the day is to clean up, is to animate our media attachment preview. So you saw that bug just now where, for example, if we select an item and then we go down and then when we remove it, it just kind of jumps out. It doesn't animate nicely. And I'm a big UI guy. I love UI. I like when my app looks and runs smoothly. So I would like for us to fix that. And the way we're going to fix that is inside of our chat room screen, we need to have some sort of an animation modifier that allows us to know if when we want to animate out and animate in our media attachment preview. And I'm just going to say animate. I'm going to add an animation modifier right here. So the animation that we want to go for is, let's just say ease in out. I think that's a good one. And the value is going to be what? Well, if you guys remember, we actually have a computer property which we're using right here to show this media attachment preview. And the property is called show photo picker preview. So I'm going to say whenever this show photo picker preview changes, again, if I come and click into it, it's just a computer property right here that is just making sure that the array is not empty. So we're saying whenever this item changes, whenever this Boolean value changes, animates nicely for us. So let us check this now. Let us present again. Let's select a bunch of items. Look at that. Let us change this. Look at how that animates down. Let's try that again. Look at that, and let us animate out. Look at that. That looks a little much better. However, there's a little bit of a bug in the application that I'm seeing right now. As you can see, there's this like nice, like it looks like it's flowing out of the line. I just don't like that. I would like for us to fix that really quickly. And there's an easy solution for that. We just need to ignore the safe area inset of this text field right here. And we're just going to do that in the message list view. We want to ignore that safe area inset. And so let's see, where do we want to add this? I would probably just go ahead and add this above our safe area inset view right here. I'm going to say ignore safe area. And the edges, I just want to ignore the bottom, honestly. Ignore the bottom. Look at that. As you can see, that went away. Again, if you didn't notice that, if we comment this out, notice that bleeding white space. So that fixes that. Okay, that looks much better. Now let's try animation again. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to zoom out of the preview just a little bit. And we click enter. Let's say we remove one. That still looks a little jumpy. Sometimes the preview doesn't animate nicely, and we should probably run it on the simulator so we could see what we're working with better. Something else I would like to just add to is I would like to add a background color to the safe area, to this bottom safe area view. So I'm going to say background is color.whatsappWhite. Okay. And let us try this again. Add. Let us remove. That's a little bit jumpy, and we're going to fix that in a little bit. So let us run this on a simulator and make sure that everything is working as expected. There's a little bit of a jumpiness when we actually remove an item from our media attachment preview, but we're going to fix that eventually. So let's say we go to our channel tab screen. Let's wait for Xcode simulator to boot up. Okay, so let's say we go to our channel tab screen right here, and let's say we go to a specific channel, and let's say we want to attach a bunch of media items. We select a bunch of photo and videos. We click enter. We have this nice list. Let's say we remove an item. We remove an item again, remove an item. It's actually removing the item. If we present it, as you can see, we only have two items selected, and we still only have two items selected. If we remove that, we have this last logo that's selected. And however, I would like for us to prevent this jumpiness. So right now, when we're removing an item, as you notice, it just jumps. I don't really like that. And let's see, what could be causing that right now? So let's say we remove an item, That is a little bit jumpy, and we're going to try to find a solution for that really quickly. Okay, guys, so I'm pretty sure the reason this is jumpy is because we need to fix, as you can see, that media attachment preview is pretty jumpy when we remove an item, but we need to fix a couple of things. The first thing I would like for us to fix is the logic. So this specific logic right here, this show photo picker preview boolean value inside of our chat room view model. So if we jump into our chat room view model, I'm going to scroll the way to the top. We have this computer property here that we determine when to show when to show this photo picker preview, this preview. And whenever we remove an item, remember, we're actually removing it all. We're removing all the media attachments. So right here in this logic right here, we say media attachment, remove all, so we can readd the new ones, okay? And that's what's causing that flickering. So I'm going to combat that by using the photo picker instead. I'm going to say if media attachment is empty, or if it's not empty, of course, or if the photo picker items is not empty. Okay, so that should fix the jumpiness. Let us run our project really quickly in the simulator. And again, we're going to come back to this warning eventually. So let's see, let us close this, bring that down, open our simulator. And inside of our simulator, let's go into a chat room. Let us select a bunch of media items, right? And let us remove an item. And as you can see, it's no longer jumpy. It's no longer trying to the items removal is still slightly jumpy, but it's not as jumpy as the initial one. So the other thing I would like for us to do is, look at that. That is not animating the way I want us to. So when we remove the last item from this media attachment preview, I want this media attachment preview to nicely slide underneath the text input area. And that's not doing that right now. So let's go back to our chat room screen. I wonder why that is. I mean, we have this animation logic. Oh, I think the reason is because, so let's move this animation block right here. Let's move it below the safe inset area, this safe area insets. So right here. So that way it can apply to the bottom safe area. Because remember, we want this animation to actually trigger because of this bottom safe area, which is what contains both our text input area and our media attachment preview. So now I'm going to run the project on the simulator. Let us see what that looks like. And I believe that should fix our dilemma with when we remove the last item from the media attachment preview. So we have this. Let us remove this. Okay. Let us remove one. That looks good. That looks so much cleaner. You guys see that? That looks so much cleaner. Let's remove a bunch of items. That looks so much better. So in the next coming episode, we're going to start handling the audio recording functionality and also clean up some more UI UX related bugs that we just introduced. And that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. I'm going to see you in the next episode. As always, please like and subscribe, and bye for now.